homework's due, but I just got a bunch of questions. But I just got a bunch of questions, so I'm a little nervous that people have started it.
I started
Yeah,
like
the other day.
I just wanted to know how I had it formatted because I know the code is looking not bad.
Don't be so defensive.
No.
Do you realize?
You said we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, but it didn't mean that it was from you. You're the one that gave it away that it was from you.
Yeah, you know what? But
It's true though. I will tell you a secret. Every once in a while, somebody will start the homework super early and you'll get a question, right? So I frequently get 1 or 2 questions within the first couple of days. But then closer to when it's due, like I'll get a bunch of questions. It's good that it's not due tomorrow. I actually thought it was due tomorrow. Because I have bad news if it's due tomorrow.
what would that have been?
I have to go take my kid to a therapy thing that's like 4 hours long. So I will not be able to answer emails tomorrow for about 4 hours, 5 hours. And then I'll be in Glenview all day. So
Busy schedule. Do you like schedule your days like on an actual schedule, or not just when?
not banding. Like, so when you think about when I schedule, I don't band. Like I'm going to do something at 9 o'clock and then I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock. I don't do that. But like, I'll say I'm going to grade the homework today and I'm going to do this today. I do it on the day.
Question. The homework one, mine still says it's pending being graded.
Yes, I haven't graded it.
Oh, okay. I was just worried if like I didn't submit.
It was due on the 3rd, right? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then I had to like
I have to
email
grade
it
it by
to you
today.
because I couldn't get on the Blackboard, and then
I didn't have it in me to grade it Friday.
I didn't know if
I'm being honest. Like I just like, fuck it, I'm not doing it.
I was like talking to my girlfriend. I was like, he doesn't grade it. He hates it. I did so bad. It's not even graded.
Didn't
She's
feel
like,
it.
dude.
Didn't feel like
Man's got a
doing it.
life.
Didn't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Straight up, that's literally what I did.
Understandable. Can you not feel like grading the second homework?
No, I gotta grade them. I'm gonna grade it today. The problem is I just like, I wanted to do it and then I just like, yeah. No, what happened Friday is I had a ton of stuff to do, so it just ended up not working. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk all day. So today is the 10th. The 12th, you will get homework 2 or homework 3 given. But remember, I forgot to give you homework 2 on the right day, so it's actually due the 13th, which is Thursday. Yay! And remember the 17th as a reminder. 17th, that will be recorded because I'll be at that therapy thing again. It's just during class that day. And we schedule these things out like 6 months in advance. So unfortunately, I can't. It's not like I can move it. And then the other one is 11/21 will also be recorded. If you guys aren't familiar, that's the Monday of Thanksgiving. And we typically travel, so works out for everyone. Yes? And does everybody know what recorded looks like? It looks just like as if you had class remotely that was recorded. You go online and there's the video. Yes? And I'll do that ahead of time. Also, depending on what your progress looks like, I might do the session stuff and make that available early so that you can start on those parts of your project. Yes? Yes. All right, so let's talk about all these things that say PID, PPR, and FPD and stuff like that. Right? Right. I just opened something. I don't know what I opened. All right, so this is going to go online today. It should have already gone online, but guess what? I'm realizing now that I did not post it online, which is fine. Doesn't matter. So, project requirements. Application has to support 3 types of users. We don't really know what that means, but I'm going to go over it today. Anyway, it's pretty basic. We'll talk about it when we go over sessions. I just won't spend time with it. I won't spend time on it because we'll already have done it today. But 3 types of users. So regular casual user, a logged in user, and administrator usually is what people do. Depends on what your application looks like. You have to use the session management pattern we're going to use in class. I'm going to show you how to use sessions and you got to use that. I use the industry standard, so use that. Application persistence must be managed via database via the server. So what does that mean? So that means anything your application needs to store, needs to use the back end to store it, needs to use JPA to interact with the MySQL database. Initialization should also follow patterns discussed in class. And you have to provide it with me, right? Your database is not actually online. It's funny that I say that because last time I taught this class, somebody goes, works on my database. This is your database. I just renamed it. I have the same name on my computer. What is your specific initialization code? So I'm curious, right? Because like I have the same initialization code. He has the initialization code he provided. So it works in my, so say, okay, let's run it on your computer. Let's see. Sure enough, didn't work. Don't test me. Don't test me. Trust me. Make sure you want to give me all that information. Most of you are going to just generate data. Like you did for your homework, you just generate it. It takes 2 seconds to generate it. Boom, done. Some of you will not. Some of you will choose instead to have like 2 or 3 things that maybe you do manually, but you do it. You're still going to need a populate table database thing, right? Whatever. I don't really care as long as you give it to me, right? I will not support this excuse that works on my computer. Yes, I don't like that. Don't do that. You got to use Spring Boot. All data persistent operations have to be performed on the server. All data and files necessary for the server-side application to work, not including the database, should be included in the Spring Boot application package. So all those things you need have to be there. I should be able to run the Spring Boot application, download it and run it and be, ta-da, it's running on my computer. There should not be like anything missing. Input validation, we haven't done it yet, but we do need to do input validation on both client and server side. We need to make sure we do that. Application level validation as well as server level validation. What that means is client side and server side. You need to do it via Spring and you need to do it via Angular. Application must use Angular as your client side framework, must perform all view related work via Angular. Great. This is kind of what we're going to do in class, right? We haven't done any client side stuff. We haven't even talked about HTML yet, right? Even though it's a web development course, you know, what? We haven't done it yet. Must follow a template driven form pattern. I know you don't know what that means. A lot of you are going to find code online. Maybe not you, but somebody's going to find some code online. If it doesn't use the pattern we use in class, guess what? It's wrong. Yes? And that line is there because every semester somebody tests me. It's okay. I don't get too mad. For demo purposes only, you may transpile the client side and have Spring Boot serve it if you choose to do that. We'll talk about what that means. But you're going to demo on your computer. We'll talk about that as well. You're going to demo on your computer. It takes too long to get my computer to be the source. So you're going to need to be able to run Zoom. You need to have the computer run it. And you need to be able to hook into the projector. Pretty easy. We have a variety. I can bring a variety of cables or whatever we might need. And you can come test it out whenever you want to. Like you want to, last day of class, you want to just plug your computer in to see if it works, right? You have at it. These are standard cords, by the way. This is an HDMI cable and this is a mini display port adapter. I also have VGA to a mini display port, and we have a variety of options. But we're going to talk about what transpiling the server-side code looks like, but you're going to develop it via Angular. Angular has a mechanism for which you can compile like, it's not compile, that's why it's called transpile, where you can compile like it into JavaScript code and then just insert it in your Spring Boot package. It simplifies some things, especially in terms of deployment. You can do that if you like. Yes, but only for demo purposes. I want to see the actual code. You go, wait, what? So somebody transpiled it, not last class, the previous one. Somebody transpiled it, never tried and tried not to give me the client-side code. Well, because they didn't do it themselves. right? Like anything you do is to me that even seems fishy, I become immediately skeptical. Yes, but I do want to see the code. Application must use CSS to coordinate the site's overall look. Look is not going to be the primary thing that you will, but it is important to make it cohesive. You're going to have a main page with a list. You're going to maybe have a detail page. You're going to have a add form, a delete form. Those are the things we're going to work on in class. So you should have things that look like that, but the website should look like a website. Don't have to go crazy, right? You don't have to be like, I don't know, whatever, but you should make it look reasonable. Yes. All right. In other words, I want you to give a college try. Doesn't, right? Just do something. Only external style sheets. Don't put the CSS anywhere, but just create an external style sheet and do it. Angular makes this really, really easy. Really easy. Angular, when you create an Angular project, it creates a CSS file for you. Just put everything there, done, right? So it's very simple. Graduate students only, since we don't have do we have a graduate student in the class right now? No, so I'll probably have to talk to them separately. They should, in fact, talk to me. Each graduate student must include some feature that we do not discuss in class. So that means it can't be something we already do, whatever we do. So transaction management is fine, image manipulation. Some kids will like to do SGML, SVG. SVG or scalar vector graphics, you can actually use in the web, create an SVG file, which is simply a text document to create an image, right? Some people use it for graphs and stuff like that, right? They can do stuff like that. They need to make sure their feature does not interfere with the grading of the rest of the. So some Yahoo decided that they would use a different framework. So their extension was to use a different framework other than Angular. That is not allowed. Yes. Also, a couple of things. There is no extra credit here. It's not like you can do, like all the other homework say, well, if you do this stuff, you get extra credit, right? Graduates have to do this. And there's no, if you want to, great, but keep it out of the way of your rest of your project, okay? Application has to be approved by me. I need to know what it is and make sure you're on a good track. One of the things we encounter a lot every time is if it's too simple, it's not approved, right? You're like, wait, what? It should be 5 to 6 weeks to work on it. It's going to feel like homework 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, it should feel that way, but 5 to 6 weeks of work on it. It should be reasonable. Yes. Also, I'm going to try to make sure you're not doing something that is considered too hard. What I like to do would think of it as more of an even out situation. So that way Riley doesn't do a really simple, easy project. And then Nathan does a really, really hard one. I was going to say Mr. Huerta. I could have, but it's like when I forget your name, it's like I talk to you all the time. How do I not, right? Break farts. I'm old. Yes. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what the project ID is. We're going to talk about all these deadlines in just a second, but that's what the project ID is. And I hate to be that guy, but I actually, stupid. I'm barking at it. So I hate to be that guy, but I do give 5% credit for it because I found that if I don't give credit for the ideas and approval, you will not seek my approval. If it's not worth something, you'll just not do it. I'm sorry. It's really annoys me that I have to give credit for it, but if I don't get any which calls. All right, so project design review. I don't care about how you're going to design it. because I know you're going to design it using Angular and Boot as your front end. So I have a feeling I know what the structure of your application is going to look like. What you have to do at that point, and we'll go over this in a second, is, oh yeah, project ideas and approval. This is due like next week. Submission of approved ideas by email. Your idea isn't considered approved until I respond with a note of approval. I very likely will say, this seems fine, but make sure you do this as well. Right? Like maybe I'll tack something on. This seems really big. Why not do something a little bit more like this? Okay. So it's a little bit of a negotiation. People will frequently send me at 11:59 a project idea. You just lost 5 points. Okay. My response is required for full credit. Nathan's like, really? You were thinking about doing it. Yeah, you are. I'm joking. I'm just joking. All right. So October 31st, Halloween. This is a design review. This is just, you're going to create a document. You can meet with me if you want, but prefer not to. We are doing individual. So when you see team, think of individual. The meeting will last no more than 15 minutes. You do not need to meet, but if you do, you can. It'll be less than 15 minutes. But you have to state how your project will meet all the requirements. What a lot of people do is they copy the requirements they see above, have a little intro. I'm not joking. This is totally acceptable to me. Intro, and then go through it. Great. I'm going to use Spring Boot. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. These are the classes I'm going to have. This is my data access objects. What's wrong with that? Yes, that works for me. Don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be like what you call it, but you need to think about all the things. Graduate students are going to especially run into this problem because here's where you have to identify your feature, right? So you likely will need 2 tables because you're going to need a user table of some sort, right? A table with usernames, passwords, that sort of stuff to log in. And you're also going to need a what you call it. So you will need relationship, even though we haven't yet quite done that yet. I'm going to do it pretty soon though, but you should also have like the data objects like defined at this point. Okay. I don't expect you to design your entire project, but you should know at the beginning which project needs to have. So think about the features, what pages it'll look like, how your application will support the 3 views. We're going to use Amazon today. Hopefully nothing I searched for recently is embarrassing. You're looking forward to it, aren't you? Okay. Pretty sure it's camping stuff. So I think I'm good, but
Who knows?
you never know, dude. My kid, one time I was looking for something. I know I looked at it with shoes. And I know I looked at it recently. And so I go into like, you can look at this stuff you recently looked at, right? So I went to, and then there's 100 toys. Obviously the kid got to the computer, right? But anyway, what pages be required? What will the flow look like? You should have some basic idea what your application should look like. Now, does that need to be like drawn out? No. A quick explanation, right? We're doing essentially a review blog is what we're doing through class, right? So we're going to have a place to add a review. We're going to have a place to list reviews. We're going to have a way for you to click on a reviewer and then see all the reviews by that reviewer as an example. Yes, that's it, right? I mean, that's your description. That's all it has to be. Yes. And then maybe your pages, if it's a review blog, maybe the page is going to be sorted by date. Yeah. Right. Whatever. But that's my point. Okay, you should be able to do that. Now, this is the sketchy part. I do expect you to have the data requirements. What a lot of kids do, and it's totally fine by me, you can create a person object or like a whatever object you're going to create, and then show that to me. That's fine as well. But I'd rather see it in SQL form. If you have a hairy query or a query you're not sure how to write, you probably want to give that to me as well. Especially if you have questions about things like that, I'd be glad to help you. Most queries should be relatively simple, and that's incumbent on you. Keep it simple. Yes? And you're like, no way. I hate to be that guy, but you can keep them really simple. All right, so that's the design review that's due on 10/31. I'll tell you what most people do. Most people turn in a Word document with the project outlines, outlining the stuff above. Yes? The CSS, blah, 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 blah. And the CSS one's pretty simple, right? You can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Yes, I plan to do all these things. This is the one you actually have to discuss. All these other ones are just kind of requirements that you have to do, right? Like there's not, you don't have to say, I'm going to perform, I'm happy by just assuming that you know you're going to perform client side and a server side evaluation. So you don't need that. Only the first one really needs to be covered. And then you need to talk about what your application will look like and how it features and work out and so forth. But that's be 10/31, and most people are just going to turn in a document. Ta-da! And I generally grade it like you see here. You talk about what the application looks like, and then you talk about the data requirements. So, but you will get 0 to 15 points. It's not out of 100. Sorry, that's the way it works. Okay. Progress review. You have 2 progress reviews. They are due in class 11/16. And this is where things get hairy. So the progress reviews are instead of class. How many ever people are you? You get divided by the amount of time we have in class, 150 minutes. We have less than 15 minutes. We have less than 10 students, so should easily be 15 minutes apiece, right?
Is that in person? Online?
It depends on when you schedule the appointment. I'll be here. I plan to be here. However, actually, I'm gonna take that back. If everybody wants to do online, I don't see a reason to commute the hour up here just to be on Zoom while I'm here, unless I'm meeting with Wanyu or something like that. But I very likely will be here, right? That's my intention. So you can meet with me. Note, this is not really a time for me to ask questions. I'm gauging your progress. So essentially, you're not quite you are going to be turning in your work, but you're going to be discussing your work, what you have done, and you want to focus your time on what you have done.
Oh,
Not what you plan to do. Let's be clear here. Not what you plan to do. What you have done. You can be graded on your progress, right? If you make me feel comfortable and I feel like you're on a good track, easy to get those 10 points. Okay. If I feel like you're not keeping up, not looking good, if I ask to see you again, you do not do well. Worst I've ever given though is like 3 points. Somebody literally tried to avoid meeting me ever. Kid was on the way. I'm sure the kid was on the way to not passing the class and decided that the best way to avoid what you call it was thing, but I just kept giving him zeros for the various things. I shouldn't have said him, but I kept giving the student zeros. And then the final project tries to turn in some project you found online. So that didn't work out for them. But the lowest grade I've ever given, I think is a 3 or a 4, but the average grade is probably like a 7 or 8. But the point is,
Do your stuff.
depends on your progress, right? The reason I do 2 progress reviews is when I found that I did 1, no one had good progress. Grades have literally probably a letter grade and a half improved since I added the 2 progress checks. You know why? Light a fire in your ass. We get 2 chances to do it. So I'm very much more likely to be given a project at the end that has all the features and things. Expected progress report depends on what the design review. You know, it depends on what your application is supposed to look like. I should have the initialization code, the name of your database, any necessary connection information. 90% of you are just going to use your last names, I would think. But if you have a different name, you want to name it onomatopoeia. It's a fun English word. I'm fine with that. But I'm not fine with being surprised. Yes, not at all. Ideally, I should also have the implementation for the database. So I should be able to initialize the code at this point, right? Homework 1 should be done by this point, essentially, right? You should be able to have the tables created. You should have the data inserted into the tables. Right, homework 1 should be done. And then homework 2 should be at least partially done. Yes, some endpoints should already be written. Right. Especially because we don't have a lot of code. You're using JPA. Remember that code I showed you in class last time? We didn't do a lot of mistakes. I think that was the thing I didn't do. That's why we ended up super early, as I didn't make a lot of mistakes. We're going to hopefully do that today. But that's what I'm talking about. Do I expect to see all the validation work? Homework 3, essentially. No. But at this point, your application could start taking shape. You can actually start with the Angular. Some people have gotten full credit. They got half the endpoints. They got the list stuff to work. And then they got the Angular list stuff to work. Then they had to work on the add and edit pages or whatever. Right? It depends on what it is that you do or what progress that you happen to make. But I should be able to see something. And I mean working, right? So if I were you, I would have Angular up and running and at least connecting and doing something with the data. Does it have to look the way you're going to finally look it? No, right? But something at that point. Final progress review is you show progress in a way that I believe you're on track to finish on time. This implies that there needs to be progress. Aren't you a little annoyed? I keep saying this implies that there needs to be progress. It almost sounds like I've been to a progress review where there was literal no progress made. No progress made. I have. Virtually all these sentences that you feel like, you know, when they read the side of the toothpaste and it says, do not eat this, or no, what is it? The side of the shampoo bottle, external use only. You know why that's there, right?
Someone needs to do it.
Someone did it
And sued.
and now we have a for external use only. So, but anyway, the point is, I am expecting to see progress. If I ask you to meet again, there's no earning point. Like, I guess I don't understand this, but people think if I ask you to meet again, that means I'm trying to give you points back.
No.
That means you didn't do well. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
So the first homework, it's like you gave us like a choice to do basically whatever we wanted. Like personally, I did like video game reviews and then like comments they made on the video game, whatever, for the first homework.
Right.
And the second homework builds on the first homework. So it's already kind of what I did. I'm just implementing the variables into the second
Yeah.
homework.
So let's suppose you're doing, I don't want to be giving you ideas, but let's suppose instead of doing this, that you're implementing a product website like Amazon, Amazon clone, as an example. Or a menu, like let's say you're a restaurant and you're offering a menu,
Right.
as an example. Homework 1 is the precursor for that. So well, let's go back to the product database. I'm sorry. Let's say you have a bunch of products, right? Right? And then you have a bunch of users. That homework 1 is how you would insert that data in there.
Right.
Homework 2, so we're doing reviews and we have a list of reviews and I get an individual review by ID. And then we have, I don't know, some pretty simple endpoints. I think it's just CRUD, right? I don't remember. I think I had a query in there, but I don't remember. Thought I had a query. Like I really thought I had a query, but we'll look at it in a minute. But that is how you form the core part of the Spring
Right.
system. So in your case, right, if you're doing a product database, you have to query all the products. Maybe query them by, I don't know, I'm trying to use the word, by manufacturer, maybe, I don't know, or whatever.
Right.
Or maybe you want a query, like maybe you put like a, so this is important for products, right? Like if you have a product query, you can select like Best Buy as an example. You can click on it and you can say, I want to see all the TVs that are between $1,000 and $2,000. Right, so you have queries that match that, but it's not very different from what we already did for homework 2, right? And then homework 3 is going to be all about validation. We're going to take what we did in homework 3 and we're going to validate those endpoints. So now right now, we assume good data. Have you guys tried to insert crap yet?
No.
We will very shortly.
So why isn't this project? Well, isn't this project just basically copying and pasting? Like,
Not quite, because you're going to do whatever you're going to do. You're likely going to have similar CRUD operations. You're very likely to have those. But then you should, a product database is an example, like Amazon clone, would have a way to sort things by category, price, all these other things. We don't do that in class, right? So that's, yeah, but I should expect to see a functioning website, right? Given that we do this at homework. And yes, you will have the solution code, right, when the homework's due. Huh? You get what I'm saying, right?
yeah.
But then we have additional queries and so forth to make your application make sense. So for like a blog and not like a review thing that we're doing, you might want to, you have to organize everything by date, right? It's very different from what we're doing, but like you'd have to organize everything by date. You'd have to, like, if you wanted to rearrange or change a date, you'd have to allow that and that type of thing. You also have to have comments. That's where your database gets a little bit more complex than what we do for homework.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not the same thing, but the core of it is.
Yeah.
So I'm not pretending here.
Okay.
Yes. And you should. If my solution code makes you feel warm and fuzzy, it's totally usable. I don't care. Use it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm fine. But anyway, the final progress review is going to be a little bit more. I'm expecting to see most of your application. Most of it. It should be mostly done. Maybe you have some cleanup to do. Maybe you have one more thing to do. Whatever, it should be mostly done. Angular stuff seems like a lot of stuff to do, but it actually goes very rapidly. Why? It's all generating, a lot of it's just generated code. A lot of it's straight up generated code, right? So there's no, so you don't have to type all those things out. But the final expected progress report depends on our discussions and your list of expectations in that regard. But at the final meeting, I expect to see your application nearly completed. You might have some minor issues, cosmetic, like you might be missing a query, something like that. Some of you might want to, like, product, if you're doing a product database, you want to search, right? Maybe you don't have your search feature, something along those lines. All the server-side code, though, should be finished. You should be only working primarily on the Angular. You know why? Homework 4. If you look at the actual syllabus, homework 4 is given and it's due here. So you should be able to be wrapping it up. Okay. So the final project review, and you can see that is 2 weeks until we have 2 weeks, and then final project due, and you're gonna love this. Final deadline, exam day, 12/14. Now, again, you can be remote. I don't care. But you should be demonstrating in class. So if you are present, you'll need to bring a computer because it's very difficult to put your application on my computer. Is it impossible? No, but it does take a minute to copy. We're going to find that the Spring projects are very small relatively, but the Angular projects are very large. Yes, there is a way to make it faster, and I will show you how to make it faster. However, you should just keep it neat, make it simple on everybody. One of my least favorite things to hear during demo days is it works on my computer. Because I will promise you, I can look through the code, prove you wrong. I have zero problem with that. Okay, so just make sure you bring your own computer. You should demonstrate at least the features that are part of the application. Features of the application to demonstrate the 3 views. Please do that. Please demonstrate client-side and server-side validation. Pretty simple. You need to do it using your own equipment, so you need to be able to Zoom. So you'll need to have Zoom on your computer, because what I'll essentially do is I'll make you a co-host so that you can share. Everybody essentially will be a co-host that day. No sharing pornography or something stupid. I will track you down. Well, the university can throw you out. I mean, that's code of conduct stuff. So don't do something stupid. I'm going to make everybody a co-host, but don't do anything stupid. So we were at a dean was given a presentation to new students. And I guess they made somebody a co-host that they shouldn't have. And they took over the screen and showed porn.
Was it someone who
Zoom
was
bombing? Yeah.
someone in the store? No, it was just-
No, but the point is that they weren't being careful.
right.
Right? I am very careful. We're not doing the Zoom bombing thing. So yeah, don't do that. 12/14, the exam day. Everything's still on the syllabus. There's nothing actually not on the syllabus. It's just I'm now describing the due dates for the things, and you can see them. Also, the PDR, I will grade very, very rapidly. I'll be taking it and grading it almost immediately so that you can have feedback on your thing. Okay, go back to what we're saying. So you will get a grade for your demonstration. If you do not do a demonstration, I mean, it's not negotiable, right? It's gone. I can't believe I have to tell you that, but okay, I have to tell you that. Yes. All right. One other thing is that any variations between what you turn in and the demo will be graded harshly. So if you turn in something that is not what you demoed, you're misrepresenting your work. Don't do that. It's very easy to avoid real drama. Just do what we do in class and you'll be happy. Actual project is 50% of your, what you call it? Depends on the project you've selected for yourself. But here's a rough outline, 30% client side, 30% server side. I've seen systems where the server side is not complicated at all, basic CRUD, and then the server client side does all the manipulating and what to call it, like the price. We just talked about a product database. We talked about category price and so forth. You can store all that via the client side if you chose to do so. So it depends, right? So if you do everything via the client side, then I'm going to make that worth more. Depends on, you know, that sort of stuff. So it's not exact, but you will not be surprised by the percentages, right? You'll know what they are. User management, you can see that there are 3 views and it's worth 15%. You can assume each one's worth 5. That will not be diminished. Database setup and configuration. You're like, wait a second, didn't I set up the database and configuration in part 1? Yeah, you did. 5% for that. Server side's 30%. And then the overall look and feel is worth 5%. And then user input validation on the client and server side is 10%. You can assume that 5 and 5. Okay, do you want to know some bad news? I guarantee at least one of you will either do client side or server side, but not both. Almost guarantee you. And you can lose 5 points. Yes? Somebody will, what's the one that they do a lot? They do like completely miss features, right? Like, in other words, the page does the view, but you can't really edit anything. Yes? Pretty easy. So fine. The other one, unfortunately, is there was a lot of code online. Be careful about using it directly. I know, right? But it's very easy. Okay, so let's not do it. But yeah, those are the big things. Oh, the user management, that's the other part. So most of you will do, I would say 90% of you will do all 3. 1 or 2 of you will do 2. Right? I mean, some things are automatic, right? Some things are value added, value removed. So it's like subjective a little bit, right? But user input validation and user management stuff is not, right? It's not negotiable. You have 3 views, you have to have 3 views. All right. All deadlines are final. No excuse of external libraries will allowed without express permission. Please avoid the use of other JavaScript libraries as much as possible. You'll essentially not be allowed to use them. Not even the grad students. You can get a 0 for that. The grad students are the exception to that rule, if you will. They may need like the SVG library. They may need this. They may need that. They're going to get permission from it. Undergraduates are just generally going to be told no.
What's it using on the libraries do?
So 90% of it is they found code online.
Okay.
That does their form page for them. 90% of it is they did their form page using Vue instead of Angular. Sorry. So
Gotcha.
found some code online. Then it was a grad student. The grad student said, I was learning, this is the thing I use from that I learned outside the class. And I said, you can't use another JavaScript library to replace something that you did learn in class. Right? Got to extend the work we do in class, right? So now I remember the shampoo bottle, don't eat.
Also, did you give them, you had to give?
Oh, they got a 0.
Oh,
Their final project was, I mean, not to go, I'm obviously not going to say anybody's name, but the final project was turned in completely online. It's pretty obvious, but like they argued with me. Don't we deserve some credit? Huh? Yeah. Well. No, but the thing is, for whatever reason, whenever I took the web developing class, this class specifically, there's a mountain of code online. You can go watch, what is it, Udemy and all these other videos that do things a very specific way. But then they get the code, you get the code for that. And you didn't learn anything because you can't use what you're learning. So it's really important to know what you're doing in this class. I am teaching you a class. I am teaching you stuff. I promise I will not leave you off a cliff. Homework 1, set up the database. Homework 2, set up the Spring stuff you have to do. Homework 3, Spring validation mostly, right? I can actually look at the old homework 3. That's what I'm mostly doing. I'm actually cheating hardcore. I cheat, but y'all can't cheat. So what I generally do, and I don't do it every year, but I typically do it, is I just look at the previous homeworks. And so homework 3 is an example from last year. I was using the product database, I believe. I don't remember exactly. Yep. Product database. You're going to do set up validation, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to generate, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And make y'all create HTML pages. Oh no. It's really simple. But yeah, that's where you create HTML pages and you have to create an ad product form. But you know, obviously we're not doing products, we're doing. So what do I need to do?
ad review form.
Well, no, I go through it and I change everything that says, what you call it, to reviews,
Gotcha.
right? It's not, right? And I've done that every semester. Like it's, yeah. And why do I do the setup? So by the time homework 1 turns around and you have homework 1, you all know, I know that you know how to set up a database. Part 2, I know how you set up a Spring database. I know homework 3, I know you know client side, server side validation and how to create a basic web pages. Guess what homework 4 is? Angular and putting it all together. You're essentially doing a whole, we go back to what you were saying earlier. You were essentially doing a whole project like we did homeworks 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm not, what you call it? So, all right, so we finished a little early, but I'm just going to screw around a little bit. There's one more thing I want to show you. Oh, I can actually show you. You want to look at old homework 4. I mean, I know you think I'm joking, but I'm not. Watch this. Homework 4. So again, they did a project. Overall Angular, views, add product, edit product, turn to website. At this point, though, it's a fully functioning website. Server side and client side.
Okay. So this is just the project without like the queries yet, right?
Well, no, this is a simple version. Like this is like a D project.
Okay.
It's like a blank.
it's a simple project that you would get likely a D on, right? Because it doesn't do anything, right? Doesn't do anything special. There's nothing to it. You'd probably add a few more queries, whatever, but that's basically it, right? Oh, and if you decide to do something that requires you to order or make orders, then you have to store orders.
Would that be too hard of a project or not?
No, wouldn't be hard at all.
Has someone tried doing too hard of a project and you had to tell them no?
Yes, but only because, okay, so somebody tried to create a transit website. And I think their global goal was way too much work. To make a transit app useful, right? Like transit tracker is an example. Well, you have to have multiple routes. And you have to have times for each of them to come, right? Like, and then you can make them random if you like, but you still have to make them, right? And so it's not a trigger, right? So it's okay, make it for one train line. Most of the time it's not. I don't really want to tell you no, but I try to tell you like, hey, maybe do it this way. Right. So yeah, we do have one thing to show you. I'm going to show you real quick. I'm not actually going to create a new project. I'm going to actually use the old one from last week. I think it was, oh yeah, I did homework 2. I finally did homework 1. It's solutions online. I already did it. But I did it like after, like I didn't feel like doing your homework. So I usually do it right before I grade, by the way. All right, so somebody had a question about organization. Create a object directory, and that's where you're going to put all the stuff that's at the controller. In this case, there's a row mapper. Oh, this is the wrong one. October 5th is the one we want. So, and then we have a student, and then you have that, and then you might have an init DB that has all the creation code, right? Just so you can have things kept separate. But the core one will just have a run the October 5th application, right? This one. The core one just has a Spring Boot application. We're just doing this to keep it simple. All right, so the student repository, there's one thing we didn't do, and we're gonna do it now. I urge you, very important, if you have a query that doesn't make sense by find by major, blah, 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 find by major and blah, 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 doesn't make sense to do it this way. For whatever reason, doesn't make sense. You can always write your own query. I urge you to try to use the other mechanism as much as possible. But maybe you've heard the expression, don't fit a square hole, square peg in a round hole. Yeah, the initdb is just a package. I don't have anything in it, but right.
That's where you put it.
That's where you would put
Homework.
create a database. Yeah, essentially homework.
Like all the stuff we did for homework.
Yeah, so if I need to, and you don't need to do this for homework too. You know, I mean, just you were asking me about how you would organize it. That's how we should organize, like the final project should look like that.
I just want to keep them.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. So I got a question about it. So anyway, another thing you can do is type at query. And this is the part that I can never remember and I always have to look up, but I think you set value equals, and then you write your query. Like star from student, where, and I'm doing something that you just easily do. Right, where equals 3.0. Now I screwed it up. I'm sorry. I had that page up.
Like I know we have to have the repository, but what exactly does it like do for the whole entire program itself?
So most of what the framework does, by the way, I can't see this at all. There we go. Where is that? Give me 1 second, okay? Spring query. There we go. I just can't remember how to write this thing. It's value equals, because you have to use this weird thing. Yep, I got it. There she goes. Well, I always use native queries. And you go, why do I want to use native queries? Because you want to write it in SQL and not some query language that you would have to learn separate. We like SQL as opposed to something else we would have to learn. Most of us anyway. I mean, there might be some Yahoo that doesn't like something. This is a pretty common query where users U, blah, blah, blah. We don't need the U. Right? Let's say student where GPA is lower than 2.0, and I don't know, major is, did I type that right? I did not. All right. So I'm going to pass a parameter. Because I'm not using anything, this is a basic query, I have to say it's a native, excuse me, I have to put that back in. I have to say it's a native query. I have to set the native query flag to be true. Otherwise, I can't use core SQL. I have to use that weird language that you saw on this other page. If you look on this other page, it says, oops, it's called JPQL, which I'm not really sure what the hell that is, but you can see that it uses a language that you have to learn. But if I use native, boom, I don't need that. So now I just have a query. So list of student. The name no longer matters because you have that query. You can add whatever you want. Because I have the parameter here, the parameter is going to be filled in here. If I had two of them, it'd be !1, !2, whatever. Right? If I wanted this to be then it would be right, and that would work. Yay, let me make sure I'm typing it right. You don't want to worry about sorting. Just do the desk. All right. I don't like that. This tutorial is terrible. There we go. This is the one I had. This is the page we had the other day, by the way. This is query. There we go. Native queries. There we go. It is !1. I had it right the first time. And then you can set the whatever. If it cannot come in as that, then it will not come in at that. Now, if I need to have them in quotes, do I need to put the quote in there? No, I don't think so. All right. We can now run it, but you should really try to avoid using the native query. It's harder to get right. So find GPA between and major, right?
Okay.
So as an example, we did that in class the other day. If that query isn't right, like if you don't have the method named right and they have the parameters, it won't start, it will fail. The native query fails at a different place. It's a native query. You try to pass it the wrong thing, right? It should fail. And in fact, that's what we failed to do the other day. We didn't actually do anything that would cause it to fail. So that's what we're going to do today. And while we do that, I'm going to go hit up Amazon and pray that nothing weird shows up. It's Amazon. I happen to be logged in. So we have a user that can log in. Obviously, I'm a customer. I get to see, might get to see something special for me. At a minimum, I get to see what I ordered, things in my wish list, those type of things. You have to customize it for the user, right? They have to be able to do something as a logged in user. But Amazon's kind of weird. This is called a casual user. So I'm a casual user. Well, I'm still logged in, unfortunately. I signed out, didn't I? All right, it won't let me sign out. Okay. So now I signed out. I'm what you call a casual user. So I don't have any customization. I have to log in to look at returns and orders. I don't get any customization. I just get the page they feel like showing me. Yes, this is what we call a casual user, right? Is the website usable? If you're building an email application, as an example, probably don't want to do that, but let's suppose you do. The user can't do anything unless they're logged in. That's normal. That's okay, right? One thing you might do, and a lot of students do, is you might have a login where you have a casual user. If it's a storefront, as an example, you have a casual user, but they have to actually order something, they have to log in. As an example, yes.
Can you make it to where the user is not logged in order to access like the website that you're creating, you have to make an account login? Is that?
Yeah,
just
you
like
can do that.
So that's like a cheap way out though, because you don't have to make anything for
Not a cheap way out. A lot of you are going to do that because it makes sense to do that.
Right.
Like example, Hotmail. Website's unusable unless you're logged in.
What about like?
You can register, but you can't use it if it's not logged in. Then you have a logged in user. Then you need to have an administrator. And then where's the third account? You have problems.
Yes.
So you can do that as well. But go back to what we're saying is what most of you are going to do is you're going to have like a blog and say, as an example, or product web page. And then you're going to have users log in to do something. And then you're going to have an administrator, which manages users as well. That's what most of you are going to do. So even if you have this type of thing, then you have to kind of manufacture and it's not impossible, you just need to do it.
Right.
Yes. Not hard, actually, but that's what we mean by the 3 different types of users. So I did the query correctly. So this is going to work. Like I don't have to, I can test it if I want to, but I really don't want to. And it would just work, right? We don't have an endpoint to go with it. One thing I want to point out though is if you screw something up, I don't know, like bye. Right? What happens? I meant to do this, I just didn't. Student's mother is not a field in any database. It can't map this to this. So what does the repository really do for you? It gives you a way to map method names to that database, the data access objects, in a way for it to automatically do its work.
So it like holds it there when it's ready to use it and then like references it.
Right, but it makes it easy, right?
Yeah.
So like it was students by major, I just type students by major, I just create a method name and I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to create a query for it.
Okay. Should be like,
But this method can't be mapped, so it should fail. Yep.
For the project or the future homeworks, if you like doing the native query more, does it matter in your?
Oh, I don't care. I'm just saying it's just harder to, if you screw something up, it's harder to identify that you screwed up.
You can get a lot more specific with native though than you can with other stuff, right?
Yeah, you can, but you can write
Queries
a
and
really
queries.
complicated query where you can't do it in what you call it. If you want to find all the, let's suppose you have a database in which you have the usernames in one, and then you have the products in another, and then you want to map the products to the user for whatever reason. Like maybe it's a salesperson's, right? These people sell this, whatever. Or students to advisors. You'd have a join queries, you have more difficult queries, and yes, you probably want to use that. But your answer to that question is you need to test that separately. You need to have an endpoint that just runs and tries it out, because ultimately you're on your own.
Right.
That's why these are easier, because it will fail.
And for the native queries, the question mark in front of the number, so like that GPA
That's-
is greater than one. It
That's
just says it.
position 1 and position 2, so this needs to be position 1 and position 2. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
That's how it maps it.
okay.
But let's suppose I switch these. Actually, let's switch it. We know there's no double major. This should run. Oops. Can't run that one. This should run. That's the problem. That's why I said try to avoid it unless you can't do it. But yeah, you can do more fine tuning. If you find a query that works for you, but you can't figure out how to make it work for JPA, just put it in a native query. But test it thoroughly and throw some garbage at it too. Because the good news we're going to find out from a validation point of view is if we're doing native queries and those things, let's not learn from security perspective. If we're doing native queries, we can't always verify that we don't have a SQL injection attack. With these other ones, you're guaranteed not to have them. Right? No problem. That's the difference. If you have it named, it actually matches the data access object to the thing. But that is it. That is the whole sum total of things I want to add. So it really depends on your application, but here's the deal. You don't have to be creative. Like if you say, well, I really want to do this application, but I got this and this, what you have to tell me by the deadlines, but we can talk about it at any time. Like queries are a little bit easier in the native query language. That's why they have them. But you can also do like contains and stuff. They have methods to do contains and those sort of things. But what I was going to say is that ultimately the deadlines are the deadlines, but you can, if you're having trouble explaining this, you can hit me with it and say, hey, what do you think about this? I have this idea. I want to have a vending machine website, which tells you where all the vending machines are in the building. And then people can report what's in the vending machine. Or that, maybe the vending machine is out of your Nutty Buddy bars. I don't know. I've never seen it. My students, for whatever reason, generally stay out of the, let's call it. They might just not want me to see what their selection is. You guys not do machine cuisine?
Vending machine? I mean, no, I get free food wherever I go most of the time, so.
Oh. I do not get free food, so I use the vending machines, but I was gonna say is like, I like the Nutty Butter bar as an example, but I just very rarely see students in them. So I would, it would be ideal if I said, oh, I saw you eating like, oh, by the way, I found 2 bags of the Flamin' Hot Munchies.
Were they good?
They were very good.
Oh,
Uh,
they don't have those in Canada, which is crazy.
yeah, but they have, oh my God. So when I was a kid, all right, we should get back to work, but let me think of what else we have to do. No, we're kind of pretty much done. We have to go to validation, which we're about to do. But what I was going to say is when I was a kid, my cousins used to dip their chips into French ketchup. I was like, oh, that's fucking weird. Why would you do that?
Ketchup chips, is what you're talking about?
Right, but in France or not, like
Canada.
northern state, right, in Canada, they have them.
Yeah, they don't taste like ketchup, but they taste really good. It's weird.
They're all right. I don't know.
They have one called
What the?
all flavors or all seasons.
Oh,
or something.
all season chips.
Yeah. Those are fire.
Those
That's because it's
I
the
don't know,
all
buddies
season.
like
That's
them.
because it's the literally like the all season bagel stuff. That's what that is on the chips. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, no, first.
But- We're done with Angular. I'll make sure you have that native query thing, but that was it. I actually went through everything. We just didn't show you what errors look like. But we're gonna go into validation is the next part, and then we drop right into HTML. HTML will literally be the recorded session. And as you might have guessed, that is actually next Monday. So my week is going to be very busy because I'll have to record that class at some point. I'm going to look for last semester and see if I recorded it last semester.
You can always just like push it back a week.
Nope. Because that would literally mean canceling the class. That means the class would not count. And I get in trouble at work. So I don't like being in trouble. Because then they say, well, this is what could, so this is what they do when you get in trouble at work, right? They say, well, this is what could happen to you, right? You can get fired. We want to know all the details, and then they tell you all the details. Well, this is the worst things that can happen to you. You could get fired, you can get reprimanded, you can get a formal complaint, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you all these things, right? And it's all, fire is always part of it, right? It doesn't matter how mild it is, right? It's always part of it. And then 6 months later, they tell you that output is not worth getting in trouble. It's not worth getting in trouble. No.
How do you get tenured into a school?
How do I get tenured?
Yeah.
All right, so hold on one second. We're actually done with class. I finished a few minutes early. If you have questions about the project, please let me know. It will be very similar. I don't know who's Karen. Yeah, it'll be very similar. It won't be the exact same one, but it'll be very similar. I do HTML during the summer. I do, some of the stuff is the same, as you can see. We're using a database instead of what's called, so the Angular part will also feel very similar to what we did during the summer as well. Yeah, I'll probably spend a little bit more time on it because of the class time, but we'll see. Anyway, all right, class is over. I'm gonna at least stop the recording.